So I discovered I can't be a part of the show anymore.
Why?
Because I'm not one of the moving parts of the community.
Sure.
Everyone-
If that's what you tell yourself.
Everyone knows that, no, he's not moving at all. In fact, they have to come in every once in a while. Is he actually still breathing in there? Or what?
Uh-huh. You know, I think you have more influence than you realize, and I think within that, your ownership of that or not is totally your game.
If I have influence, it's people saying, don't be like him.
You know, every life is a lesson for other people to learn about. Whether it's somebody I want to become or somebody I don't want to become, you can observe and give people grace where it's due, and you can aspire to be or you can aspire not to be those things. So however you take your life, Tim, is totally in the direction you're in charge of.
I'm just saying, Chris has said this. He hopes that if some disaster happens, that he's in it with me because he knows he can outrun me.
Oh my Lord. Okay, well, on that note, I think that if a disaster...
The boulder you can see outside the window, that can outrun me.
Well, but, okay, so if a major disaster happened, let's be real, it would probably be more of a blessing at this point than a curse. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Probably.
Right. So...
Really?
Oh yeah, if an EMP or if some catastrophic thing came and knocked out all communication, our lives would be blessed because of it.
Oh, you know, I don't disagree with that, actually.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think that it would force us...
Just let me get my VW Bug first.
If you'd like to.
No, let me tell you why. Because that's pre-electronic crap in your car.
Well, any circa 1995 or prior
I know, but
does.
I like the Bugs. I'm sorry.
And see, to me, whatever those Chevy trucks never die.
Oh, yeah.
Like the 92 to 95 trucks,
yeah,
those never die.
You get a vehicle from before, electronic ignition and all, or electronic fuel injection and all that. They'll keep running.
Well-
Let the EMP do its thing.
Well, yeah, so, I
Of
don't
course,
know.
finding electricity to get a gas pump to work might be a whole different issue, but
That's, yeah, no longer gravity fed,
a
nor...
little foresight on your part to have gas stored up.
Hey,
Well,
we're just
you know.
gonna siphon it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just siphon it. It'll all work out. Not that we're preppers over here. Good morning. It's Wired Wednesday with McKinnon Hansen, and I have Matt Rhodes in here today. And we're going to talk about kind of some different mindset things to go through what a world would look like if there was a disaster. So, good lead in, Dr. T, because the world right now is in a funky place, I would say. There's different things going on that a lot of us take part in or don't take part in of we are a victim to this life, not a survivor of this life or not figuring out what our life is. And specifically, today was supposed to be the Utah Farm Bureau Federation update, and I think it's really insightful that we still keep it around ag because without ag, there's literally nothing. Right?
Yep.
And with that, just in Iron County, we have beef production, we have hog production, we have sheep production. We could bury the state of Utah with just the wool produced here in Iron County.
Yeah, and you forget there's a handful of people around that are starting to grow vegetables as well, too. You know?
Right. And we're pretty self-sustaining, which means we're pretty lucky.
Yep.
And I found a quote this morning, which I thought was really timely, and and every week it seems like I go back to this, but, without rain, nothing grows, so embrace the storm. Well, we do have blue skies this morning as far as I can see, and I think I can see out to Frisco and Milford and out to the West Desert, but it really is true in all of our aspects of life. If there's not a storm, we're not growing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can relate that on many aspects. It's kind of, you look at the agricultural side of it, and in 2020 to 2019 to 21, we had that real bad drought, and it was some trying times for people.
A lot of producers had to sell more than half their herd.
Yeah. Yep, we culled quite a few animals to try and sustain, what we had. you know, the feed that we had for the animals, and it was a trying time, you know. And you look at you know, some of your personal storms. My family's been through quite a bit the last few months, and you know, I mean, I think it's made us stronger and closer. You know, some medical things that have happened in our family, and you just got to weather the storm and hope tomorrow's a better day.
And being a producer, there's so many levels of storms. Not only are you like, and for our listeners, you know, take this into your own individual household. How are you doing? How is your spouse doing? How are your children or your grandchildren doing? You know, what do they need help with? What do they need support in? And what storms do they have to go through and you can't shelter them from? Right? They have to experience these things. And so when I look at producers and when I look at Iron County, and gratefully over the weekend I was able to take my kids to a variety of farms. Granted, they're all sheep farms, but
You didn't stop by mine.
I know I didn't make it that
You
far
didn't
north.
stop by us.
But luckily, we have that community that you can call up a producer or even just stop by, you know, and observe and watch them. The lambs, you know, being born to the lambs barely surviving to the ones that don't survive.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to teach your kids those lessons, because there's nowhere else to teach those lessons other than right then and there.
Yep.
You know, so then you go into where this is all going is if ag doesn't survive, nobody survives.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard truth for some people.
It is. You know, I mean, I think about that once in a while. It's one of those things where, you know, at least for our family, it would be, you know, we should be okay. We kind of raise a variety of things and stuff like that. But it always scares me because you look at the general population and you wonder how many of those people even understand where this stuff is coming from. You know, and how they would survive it. Because to a lot of people, and I've heard this statement several times, oh, if I need milk or meat or whatever, I just go to the grocery store, and they think that it just magically appears there. And it's unfortunate that we're not educating people to know where it actually comes from.
Well,
and the work that goes into it. And
the work, I think, is the key aspect of that, is because it's often discounted, diminished, and ignored of what it actually takes to raise a single beef, and a single beef would feed 30 people for 30 days.
Probably pretty close, yeah.
Right? It's, I mean, maybe a little bit more, give or take, right? And I'm totally generalizing right here, but one sheep would feed one family for a month.
Yeah, sheep are a little bit smaller, so you'd probably be, you know, more like a week, but.
Well, yeah, but it's the conversion that we need to talk about.
Yep.
Right? It's people, you know, you think of just picking up frozen potatoes, you know, like your French fries and whatever, or a bag of potatoes at the store for $5. If you really truly had to stretch that, how long could you stretch 5 pounds of potatoes?
Right, exactly.
And
it's a loaded question.
Right. Because, you know, in all of the different aspects, there will always be the giver.
Yeah.
And there's always the taker. So the giver is the ag community in trying to keep things alive and trying to sustain this population. And we've seen it over the last 50 years. There used to be 50 million farmers.
Yep.
And now there's 5.
Yeah, it's a dwindling thing, you know. I mean, unfortunately, I kind of feel like there's a lot of these people that have just watched their dad and their grandpa or whatever just work their fingers to the bone, and they think I don't want to do that. And to a point, I understand what they're saying, but it's, to me, especially, you know, raising my kids and stuff, it's a bigger life lesson than that. You know, it's something that we enjoy and we love and we get to do with the family, and to watch some of the things where my kids have grown learning this stuff, and to kind of watch them figure out things on their own, and, you know, really kind of some new ways to do stuff. I mean, to watch my oldest girls, you know, we just got done with spring break, and one of their primary things when they got up in the morning was go check to see if we had any new lambs and water the sheep and stuff. And I I told them that we needed to look at some vents that we had an issue with where they were getting out, and how they fixed it, I just kind of scratched my head and went, never in a million years would I have thought to do this like this, but it worked.
And
You
it's
know.
incredible when you give kids that opportunity.
Yep.
When you give people, not even just children, if you give people the opportunity to learn or embrace or to do something, you get 100
Yeah.
different results.
You do. You know, I mean, it kind of goes back to the old saying, you know, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat and still get the same result. And it's interesting. Their grandfather, when he's out there with us, there's been a few times where, you know, I want to tell him, hey, you know, we need to do it like this, and he'll step in and say, just let him figure it out. And you just sit back and you watch, and it's amazing the thought process that goes through these kids' head.
And we need to give kids a little bit more credit too,
Yep.
because they are completely capable of thinking.
Yep.
And they're completely capable of taking responsible action towards specific things.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody said, you know, in one of the mom books I've read, I read too many books, I swear, but it's a balanced danger, right? You have to teach your kids how to cut up lettuce. Whether that's with a butcher knife or a butter knife the first time is the balanced danger, right?
Yeah.
They need to learn how to, you know, there's a viral video going around Facebook right now, which I just love. But a 3-year-old is dragging lambs into a pen and putting up with that mama sheep.
Yep.
A 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm intimidated by mama sheep. I'm like, I don't want to get in your way. But a 3-year-old, you can learn so many lessons from that. You got to get the job done.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, we're protecting those babies and getting the mom and babies joined and whatever else, so they know who each other is, are, whatever. You go through that, and you can learn so many different lessons from that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've kind of talked to my kids is kind of how to read some of the animals and look at some of the warning signs. And sometimes when you think that the mom is being aggressive when you have their babies, that's not a bad thing. It means that they have good maternal instincts.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I never fault these animals on, whether they're the sheep or the cows, or, you know, we've even seen it a little bit in some of the horses that we have raised babies out of.
Well,
And
and I
you
think
just- you
all
gotta
mamas
respect
are like
them.
that.
Oh, absolutely. You know? Yeah.
So going back to this, you know, vision of you can picture a strong and healthy individual that's capable of taking on the world, and you can see this diminishing individual who is stooped and maybe kneeling on the ground and just continually feeding the stronger person. And if you can sit back and really think that agriculture is the person on their knees right now.
Yep.
And they are sacrificing so much for so long for all of the rest of the people of the world. And really the world, because in Iron County I know that our hay goes all the way to Japan in some cases.
Yeah.
And Abu Dhabi and different areas. But in that regard, Iron County is feeding our community full of different things. And when you step back and you can picture these two individuals, at some point something has to give.
Yeah. And it does, you know, and that's one of the unfortunate things in the world that we live in today. You know, a lot of the negative fingers gets pointed back at agriculture, but nobody really talks about the positive things. You know, I mean, we look and right now it's the water usage, and it's, you know, everything with the public lands and the conservation
Yeah,
and
you
things like
personally
that.
are killing the Great Salt Lake. Thank
Yeah,
you, Matt.
yeah, it's you know, all that water that we have down here travels uphill. It's, you know, odd.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's quite the thing, isn't it?
But
to see
nobody
how-
realizes we're at a steeper elevation than Salt Lake. Nobody
Yeah.
does.
No,
No, I know.
we are,
Actually, I know that. Yeah.
yeah, we are, but you know, I mean, you look how far away it is, and none of our tributary waters
No.
run that way. And if you want to take it to the next level, you know, there's only two, if I remember correctly, there's only 2 counties in the state of Utah that don't have a river that run through it. Iron County is one of those.
We
We don't
we
have
a
an
creek.
actual.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a creek, but not
Yeah,
a
we-
river.
Yep.
You know, and the whole water thing, there's only so much water, right? And what's interesting, if you really dive down into water use and all of the different things, farmers and producers have been forced to come up with higher productivity
Yep.
for the ounce for ounce of water. You're at a higher efficiency than you were even 5 years ago.
Well, and who wouldn't want to be more efficient? And I guess that's where one of my frustrations are, is who wouldn't want to make things more efficient? You know, I mean, the technology that we've got in the equipment, it's staying expensive, and we do the best that we can with the dollars that we have. But you look at it, and you know, we've installed on some of our farms, we've installed some newer pivots and things like that, and they only run at 15 pounds of pressure. That's all the nozzle is. You know, I mean, we're using a third of the water that we used to.
Well, and going back to that, it seems like it's that give and take, right? Producers are coming up with more ways to feed
Yep.
more people
Unless,
on less, and people generally, okay, I am kind of ornery in this. It's a very general statement, but the general population keep taking.
yep,
And the majority of them don't understand what is given up on the producer's end.
yeah, and
So,
that's
and giving, well, I kind of want to touch on this because we were talking about it earlier, but the things that producers' families give up and sacrifice,
oh, absolutely.
or the things that they go through on a totally different scale, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'll relate it to me because you've never been in this position, unfortunately, or fortunately. So when a woman is pregnant, you have 3 trimesters, right? You're sick, and sickest, right? Basically. Producers' wives still have to get all the damn chores done. And I call them damn chores because come hell or high water, those chickens have to be fed.
Yep.
Right? The cows have to be fed, the sheep have to be fed, regardless. And then they have to be sorted and lambed and calved out and all of these different things on top of being a mom.
yeah,
On top of cleaning the house, on top of laundry, on top of meals, on top of, wait, I forgot to go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
on top of all of these different things. And we think our to-do list is bad.
yeah, yeah, and it is, you know, and I know where McKenna's going with this, because her and I had a conversation yesterday, and I told her, you know, when my wife, she was pregnant with our middle boy, we were getting ready to move cows out onto the range, and you know, I think it frustrates her because she usually gets to drive the truck now because she's got to watch kids instead of riding the horses like she loves to do. But you know, she was a week overdue with our middle boy, and I had her drop me off, and I was by myself, and so it took me a lot longer to get the cows gathered and get them to the corral than what we anticipated. And I get back to the corral, and she's been there for a few hours waiting for me, and there she is, a week overdue with one of our kids, and she's sorting bulls by herself.
And that's not, that. I mean, talk about a mama bear.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, bulls are some of the least intelligent animals. You know, they fight with each other for no reason. There's a lot of risk involved in being pregnant on top of that and a week overdue. You know, but it had to be done, and that's what she told me when I kind of wasn't real happy that she was doing that by herself, or doing it at all in the state that she was at, you know.
But then it goes into the tenacity of a producer.
Yeah.
The tenacity that your wife has, and the grit and determination and the willpower, just the pure willpower of making sure it gets done.
Yeah, and that's what she told me. She says, "What do you want me to do? Just sit in the truck and do nothing? We have to get this done if we're going to get it done today." You know, and she wasn't wrong.
Right. And if you take that aspect into the giving and the taking, you know, portion of this, I don't think the people taking understand what is being sacrificed.
Yeah.
They're seeing it appear on the food shelves and or on the grocery store shelves, but they're not seeing the hours that it took.
Yep.
A can of corn takes an entire 6 months from seedling to harvest to can to grocery store, right? Let alone the beef market. The beef market is an 18-month growing period of the beef from when it hits the ground. If it survives hitting the ground, let's just be real, there's a mortality rate right there.
Yep.
You know? The feed, the longevity, all of those different things, 18 months plus processing, you're 2 years in getting that steak in the grocery store.
Yep.
Not to count the countless hours of, and the sleepless nights of the producers of, am I going to have enough water? Am I going to have enough feed? Can I afford to pay my bills here?
Yeah.
What vaccines do we need? What are all of the overhead expenses, and can we make it work?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's the thing, is there's a lot of challenges that go along with it. You know, I mean, I unfortunately miss quite a bit of stuff with my kids. I don't try to miss too much, you know, but it happens. And I think the thing that people don't realize is when it's snowing and cold and nasty outside and you're just curled up in your house, and good for the people that can do that. I'm usually out in that stuff. I don't have a choice. We got animals to take care of.
Right.
You know, and a comment that I make quite regularly is I kind of feel like we take better care of our animals than we do ourselves. You know?
Well, absolutely. But then you believe in such a higher purpose
Yeah.
beyond that in making sure America's fed.
Yep.
You know? And I think that's one key aspect of this that we really need to highlight is we're here to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Just ourselves right now, like, because we're barely holding on. The balance of the give and taker is such a win-loss situation right now.
Yeah.
That we need to start coming together and figuring it out.
Yeah, and I agree with that, you know, because I mean, for a lot of years it's been a compromise, and we're kind of at the point where, you know, there's not a whole lot of compromise left. It's you either stand up and say enough's enough, or, you know, we lose everything we've got.
And you know, there's so many different ways we could go with that. One thing that comes to mind is, you know, if not now, then when? And if not us, then who?
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's kind of the tough thing. I mean, kind of like why I'm sitting here right now, not because I want to, but I have to. You know, I think
yes,
we
I forced him to be here. To all of our listeners.
No, you didn't force me, is what it comes down to, is if I want, you know, the next generation and the generations after that to be able to continue doing what we're doing, I have to be here.
We have to start
educating people that we need to start standing up for things. You know, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation that we're at in the world. We kind of get tugging on people's heartstrings.
Just a little bit. Matt, I love and appreciate you coming into the show today. Thank you for being willing to talk about all things being a producer. This has been your host, McKinnon Hansen with Wired Wednesday, keeping this community connected. Your local Farm Bureau financial agent at 435-592-2021 and anything real estate at gocedarcity.com. Again, McKinnon Hansen at 435-592-2021.
I'll try to be a moving part next week. Like, no guarantees.
Yeah, you guys should jump in a little more.